The city council raised taxes, and the way that the tax increase was voted in was disturbing to some of us. And the question about whether or not we really needed to raise taxes is the question. Now, I know there's been a lot of emails going back and forth in town. There's a letter to the editor we want to address here, and some things. But the bottom line is this: at some point, the city has to make a decision. We need X amount of money in reserves over and above what we're going to spend on a year-to-year basis to run the city, right?
I think that's part of it. I think that we need to look holistically at the city. And when you look holistically at the city, one of the controversies this year was, well, we're not paying the employees enough. And the talented employees are starting to look around. The economy is getting better. We have huge levels of deferred maintenance, particularly in facilities. And we have got to address those, because if we don't, it costs us more in terms of every time I've got leaky roofs, then, we get mold intrusion, we get all kinds of other things that happen. We've had summers where air conditioners went out and you had to send the kids home. And you really can't run a good operation like that. We've got street maintenance that needs to be done. We've got my new public works director that came to town. He says we have 700 lane miles of streets, and at least 100 of them are severely deteriorated. So we as a community need to start thinking about and talking about what level of service are we going to provide for people. How are we going to have, adequate amounts of compensation to keep talented people? And what's the future of the direction of the community? Because we've got a large, long list of folks who really want to have more amenities in the city. And one of the things we're finding is that we have all the young people here who typically leave, and when you survey them, after graduation and all, they say, well, this isn't the kind of town that we want to be in. We want something that has more entertainment, and not just the bar thing, but more things that, more parks, more things that are family friendly for the next stage. Just more upscale community. So we have to balance all of that.
Of course, the question is, the need for a tax increase. Was the tax increase needed? But in addition to that, there's we're hearing that we need to spend $10 million or so on streets. Hasn't been a major street bond in many years. You just said it. There's not enough money in the budgets. You've said from the beginning there's not enough money to do the type of street maintenance that we need. One of the misconceptions, I think, by the way, about street maintenance that people may not understand is this: some of the streets that are in disrepair and are in such bad shape are not owned by the city.
That is correct.
It's amazing. The city owns certain streets, but a lot of the main thoroughfares like Greenville Boulevard and Dickinson Avenue are owned by the state, and you can't touch them anyway.
Well, we can't touch them, but like Dickinson Avenue is an interesting creature, and that's something, I have a love for the Dickinson area, the old tobacco area, and I've been working the DOT since I've been here, and I think I've got a commitment for them to go ahead and make the improvements on Dickinson, and we'd like to make that road more of a premier road into the city, and they're working with us on that. But when I just found out recently that they think they're going to schedule that road for 2016, then they look at the city and say, well, you better have your money ready for the betterments. We're going to do the road, but if you want that road to have a nice streetscape, et cetera, you need to be ready. So I know right now that I've got to have probably $1.5 million ready for the betterments.
So what does that mean? They're going to pave it, but you've got to put in the
nice streetscape, the amenities.
What do you mean by streetscape?
The trees, the benches,
right.
The amenities, the pavers, those kinds of things.
And of course, the other thing too is it sounds like if it's 2016, am I right? They should be in construction on the 10th Street connector by then.
They should be. They're going to bid the 10th Street connector this year, and they're going to be starting, and I think that thing's supposed to be done somewhere closer to the end of 2017, 2018. So we've got tremendous changes coming in this city. And when you talk about the 10th Street connector, one of the things that's impacted us is that we now have to redo a huge pipe in the middle of town's the town center, the Town Creek Culvert, and that's going to be about an $8 to $10 million project. And so we've been trying to get funding for that too.
Let's address some of the things, some of the allegations that have been made. There's a letter to the editor on GreenvilleHeadlines.com that the city has $16,500,000 in free cash to fix roads and improve city facilities. True or not?
Not in free cash in the way that, you can take that money and it's just totally free and not have to stop doing something else.
Where is that money? If there's $16 million worth of money,
frankly, I have not been able to detail his numbers, but I will tell you this, that we spent an extraordinary amount of city time with staff, and we put together a report that we put out on the internet for anybody to see that details all the city's funds that are available, what's committed, what's restricted, what's assigned. And just because we have money that the state or the federal government says you can't use in a certain way, we also have a city council that's made certain decisions about how those monies are to be used. And so I think I can tell you down to the penny where all of those funds are and what the council's decisions are about how those monies are to be used. So I don't have free money sitting out there, other than the fact that if somebody says, I don't like what the council's doing with the money, then and I want to do something else, then that's a difference of opinion.
Well, is this $16 million that's in there somewhere, is it available to help fix streets and facilities?
Well, there is $4 million that the council put aside for some street projects. And we started on those last year, and I'm pleased to say that we did about 14 lane miles of street, and and that included First Street. But one of the things that happened to us when we started to try to become a little more aggressive with the streets is we went out and found a street that we thought we were going to basically top coat and paint, and it had totally crumbled, and we had to totally go back and take that street down to the base, which is very, very costly. So that's when we decided we needed to update the pavement management system, because whatever study we had was about 7 to 10 years old, and so it was not accurate for what we needed to do today.
So you said the council set aside $4 million for street improvements.
That's correct.
Has that money been all spent?
Not all spent, because we needed to do the study.
Right.
We spent part of it, and just this week, we're finishing up microsurfacing in one of our smaller subdivisions called Sedgwick, and as we get the results back from the study, we will be able to take those results and then do something that I think may be unique. I've told my Public Works Director, go sit down with the utilities people, find out what their projects are, because I don't want us to go out and pave some streets and then they turn around and have all the curb cuts coming back as they try to do upgrades and all. So we have to do a coordinated effort, and then once we do that, we can roll out and do more.
But the question here is, and I think it's a fair question, if the city council has been setting aside millions of dollars like that for street improvements, now we're hearing that we also need to have a bond referendum for street improvement.
Okay, let's put that in context,
Okay.
because we had not spent very much money over the last 5-6 years on
Right.
streets.
So basically, you're saying we need $15 million for streets?
We need probably more than that for streets.
Right.
But what happened is that about a year ago, the council did say, we need to get serious about streets. We're going to, put up some money for them. Let's get you all going. But what we really need to do is address 100 miles of streets that are very deteriorated, and that will probably cost something in the area of $40,000 to $80,000 a lane mile to do.
But just to confirm again, this $16 million that's been alleged that's there somewhere, you're saying that you've not discovered it in the budget, even though this guy's a CPA now and he's looked through the budget and he says I found $16 million that could be used for these things.
Well, yes, if you found $16 million and it's dedicated to, say, building a parking garage, and we're now building a parking garage, we have a contract on that. We're building a
Right.
parking garage.
Right.
So I can't take that
So
money
you
back.
think that some of the money he's
Yeah.
talking about is already designated to be spent?
It's designated.
So
really.
he calls it free cash, but you're saying that's not true.
No, not true. I mean, from the standpoint that I think yesterday he raised the issue of the vehicle replacement fund. Well, that's a fund that it's an internal service fund that the city has set up in order for us to replace the equipment the vehicles when we need to replace them. And basically, the departments pay some money into a fund, and we have a committee that looks at every vehicle and, what's going to be needed, how much it's going to cost, and when that vehicle is going to be available to them. And we put that money aside so we can do pay cash as you go, as opposed to having interest on vehicles and all.
So he's saying then, that the letter to the editor, again by Terry Boardman, he's saying that that there's $7.2 million in the vehicle replacement fund, and that now this becomes a little bit of a bone of contention, because he is alleging that management, meaning your management group, has seen fit to hide this $7 million in an internal service fund outside the purview of the taxpayers. This is the question about whether or not you've moved money out of the general fund, outside the general fund, to hide it from the taxpayers, which is what's being alleged here. Meanwhile, the city council is looking at the budget going, we don't have enough money, we've got to raise taxes. So I want to give you a chance to respond to that. Have you moved $7 million into this fund, and are you moving money out and without having the authorization of the city council?
No, the vehicle replacement fund was actually set up in 2007. It was created by taking some funds from, I guess, some capital funds that they had been using to buy equipment with. And they created an internal service fund so that we could move to this sort of pay-as-you-go system and have the funds available through the years to buy equipment. I mean, it's hard for communities to come up with $1 million ladder truck or so all of a sudden when somebody needs it. Now,
So if the city of Greenville needs to buy a new fire truck,
right,
you don't finance that.
No.
You take that money and pay cash for it.
we pay cash for it.
And that's what that money's used
That's
for?
what that money
And
is
you're
used
saying that fund was started in 2007?
It has started in 2007.
And the city, you're not moving money out of the general fund into that?
No.
How does that money get moved in there? Where's it come?
Okay, the departments that will require the vehicles, mine doesn't, but the police department does.
Right.
Well, they pay into the fund to basically supply their vehicles through the years. The fire department does the same, Public Works does the same.
Let me stop you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to make sure I
okay.
understand.
That's
So
okay.
you say the Greenville Police Department pays money into the fund?
Into the fund.
Where do they get the money to pay into the fund?
Well, that's the monies that we would be from the general fund, but we're creating a fund that's dedicated to just handling those vehicles so that the money is ready.
So then it is a portion of the general fund that's
Sure.
being moved through the police department into this.
And from the Public Works Department
Right.
and from the Fire Department,
Right.
so that those monies, and the hit is not so hard on the department, because if you have a vehicle that's going to last 10 years per se, then you're paying a smaller portion through the years, and that money
Right.
is there when you need it, as opposed to having to come up with, a $500,000 vehicle.
So what I hear you saying is that we've got $7 million in a fund that you're moving money into per an agreement with the city council in 2007. And the city council's aware that the money's going in there.
Sure they are.
But it's a $7 million fund. You're using that money to buy vehicles, police cars, fire trucks,
ambulances,
Public Works, ambulances,
trucks.
those kind of things.
Right.
And so that money also, I mean, I guess you could take that money and use it to fix streets, but then you'd have to finance vehicles.
Exactly.
Is that the way?
That's exactly what's happening.
Okay,
And
all right.
we're even, and by the way, that fund now is, let's see, for FY15, the fund balance for that will be about $6.6 million, and it's going down because we adjusted the rates this year, and my projected schedule shows that, in just by FY18, we're looking at $5.8 million. But that, aside from that, I just think that this is a very prudent way of handling your money and not having to be in emergency states, because when things break down or you have these big purchases, you have some way of handling them. And we're taking the concept a little further, because this year we're setting up, and I'm very pleased and proud of this, a facilities improvement fund. I have a lot of buildings with deferred maintenance in terms of roofs, air conditioners, paving needs, all kinds of things, that ADA requirements. And we have to address those issues. And so what we're doing now, we've done an evaluation of all of our buildings and all, and we're starting a similar program where we're going to deposit monies toward maintenance, and we're going to start fixing deferred maintenance and get in a position so that we'll have the maintenance money in the future.
When someone alleges, number one, when taxes are being increased, there's a whole new level of scrutiny that's going to be put on what you're doing with the city's tax money, obviously, and I think that's what we see happening here. And you have some people who are more astute at finances and others. The average person just goes, darn it, they've raised my taxes. But I mean, some people are going to look deeper, and so you're being looked at very closely now. But the question that I have for you, to put the taxpayers, regardless of whether or not the money is being managed the way I might manage it, I was against the tax increase. I still am. But beyond that, in terms of, as a taxpayer, in terms of making sure that these things are not, that you're not moving money out of this fund, hiding money over here, doing that, what's the safety net for the taxpayers on that? You have auditors looking at your numbers?
Yes.
How often and who does that?
Okay, we have an external audit firm that reviews our books completely throughout every budget year, and they will be coming in fact, for the budget year we just finished, FY14, and going through our books and scrutinizing our books. We've been doing this forever, 20-plus years. We have certificates of award for good financial management that have been awarded to us, and I'd just like to point out that, Mr. Boardman has a very avid accounting interest in what's happening with our finances, and we retained our AA rating and got a good report under the audit firm that he likes, as well as the audit firm that he doesn't particularly care for. So
you had two different audit firms look at it?
We changed auditors over the last year. We got we went out. The council directed looking at the fees that the one group was charging, that we sort of rebid it again, and so a group got it, but. This new audit firm, they audited probably about a third or half of the cities and counties in the state of North Carolina. So we're very comfortable with them.
I know you got to go to a 9:00 meeting, so we need to end this. But the bottom line is, if people have questions about any of this. I will say this: when I've been on an email chain now for about a month, and there have been a lot of emails. There have been a lot of people copied on all these emails. I will say that you've been very forthcoming with the information.
Thank you.
And you've been trying to answer the questions. And I know that if anybody has questions, what's the best way? I mean, it takes a lot of staff hours to deal with these kind of questions, but you folks are public servants. You do work for the taxpayers. How do people get their questions answered if they have questions? How do you suggest they go about that?
Well, I think that they can, first of all, you can do some of your own research because it's right there on the internet. There, all of the budgets.
GreenvilleNC.gov?
GreenvilleNC.gov. They're out there for, and I think Mr. Boardman does a lot of his research, basically going to the internet. All of the information is there. If you have questions, there's a finance department. You can call the finance department and ask them. We can answer questions in our office, and you can put them in our Compass system, and the Compass system, which is a remote system, will route the questions to the correct department. So we are trying to be as transparent as possible. Even the report that I generated for the council on the fund balance, which is how this whole thing started, we put that out on the internet, on the web page, so that people can see that. And you're right, we are public servants. This is the public's money, and we want to have transparency with the money.
Anything else you want to say?
I just like to say that I am so excited about Greenville. We have so many things going on. We are about to renovate and expand our convention center. We are building a parking deck downtown. We've been working with the private sector to get some new development in town, and so you see the Taft project. It's going to be a 5-story housing and mixed use and parking lot downtown in they call uptown. In our area, we have the Dickinson study that's going to help us and revitalize that area, and we've already starting to get developers looking in that area. We got the river study going, and I think that there are going to be a lot of new, interesting concepts for people to start thinking differently about the river, and hopefully use that as more of an economic tool to get some more economic impact into the city. Lots of transportation projects, and so I think we're in a good place. I'd like to be even better, because if any of you all out there have money that you'd like to be investing in our community, I'd like to see you bring it forward. We got new retailers looking at us, and so one of the things that's exciting is the partnerships that we have with the university and the hospital, and looking at a millennial campus in the uptown area.
Yeah, the governor signed the bill yesterday that's going to about $150 million project on 10th Street.
That's correct.
That's going to be pretty cool.
That's going to be awesome, and
Yeah.
so